Hello, Polymer Clay friends. Happy 2019. Valentine's Day is coming and we're going to make polymer clay hearts. I've made tons of these hearts. I give a lot of them away. I've sold a bunch of them. They're fun and easy to do. Lots of people make polymer clay hearts, and so this is not something new or specific to me, but I have made enough of them that I can call myself an expert. So without further ado, let's get started. So this is a little tip that if you're making anything that you want to be the same size, like beads, here's a way to do it. This is scrap clay that I have run through my pasta machine on the thickest setting. Doesn't matter whether it's the thickest setting, just whatever setting. And I'm using just a little cutter. Doesn't matter which cutter you use. Okay, and I'm going to use my cutter to cut little squares of polymer clay. And then I can decide, maybe on my first one, how many pieces of clay make the size ball that I'm wanting to make. So I've got 6 pieces here. I'm gonna pick them all up, squish them together. That's the technical term. Okay, roll them up. I need to back up, okay. And then I'm going to compare that to the balls I was making a few days ago, and it's a little bit small compared to that one, so I'm going to add one more. So that was 6. This makes 7. Okay, so I'm going to use 7 pieces to make a heart ball. Okay, and then depending on what size you want your hearts to be, you could use more and how thick your clay is and what size cutter you're using, you could use more or less. But now if I wanted to make another one or 20 more or 50 more, I can make each one with 7 squares this size. Okay. All right, so to make my hearts, I take my heart ball, I decide what I'm going to use for this particular heart, and I think for my first one, I'm going to take this mica shift piece that I made, and I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm going to take half and I'm going to wrap it around my heart ball, and it doesn't quite fit. It's not going to quite come together. I need to cut off the wonky edges. Okay. It's not quite big enough to go around. I could either just kind of stretch it, or I could run it through the pasta machine to get it just a little bit wider, which is what I'm going to do. Okay, I had previously run this through the pasta machine on a number 4, and so this time I ran it through on a number 5, and that probably made it big enough to go all the way around. Well, it is if I work it together a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it around my heart ball, and there are lots of different ways I could do these ends. You can pick your own way, but I like to do this. I'm squeezing together the leftover on the end. I could have done this with a lot less clay, as you can see, because I have pretty big ends. Okay, I'm going to squeeze both ends together like a piece of candy. I can see that I don't like the way this seam looks because I'm seeing too much in the middle, so I'm going to fix that some. And then I'm going to take a 2-ended knitting needle, and I'm going to heel that seam to where you can't tell which stripe was the actual seam, okay? All right, and then what I like to do on the ends is I start pinching and pinching, and then with my fingers on the ball on the end, I start turning it and twisting lightly, and what I get is a little bit of a twist in my clay. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other end. I'm going to pinch, and then I'm going to put my fingers on the ball and start twisting. Okay, so that it looks kind of like this. And now I'm going to start pinching this end again as I turn and twist, so that it gets narrow enough that I can just break it off and it has a little point to it. Then I'm going to kind of push that point in so that I get a little swirly effect on the end. And when I make my heart with this, that swirly could be at the bottom tip of my heart and the top part, or I could make it on the front or back of my heart, which I kind of like the look of. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on this end. Keep turning it and pushing on this to make it smaller, narrower. Okay, till I get to a little point, and then I'm gonna push that point in too, so that I have a little swirly on that end. And then I want to get all of the clay perfectly smooth, and I can do that two ways. I can do it by rolling it in my hands. And I can also use my knitting needle. And using the knitting needle to smooth out edges on things is kind of a, I learned this at the first polymer clay retreat I ever went to, which was Clay Carnival in Las Vegas about 5 years ago. I have a little air bubble in there. I don't know if you can see. Oh yeah, look at that air bubble. Okay, I'm going to use a little needle tool to get rid of that air bubble. I'm going to pierce it. And then squish the air out the pierced holes. And then I'm going to use my knitting needle to smooth that out and close up those holes. Okay, got a little bit out of round, but that doesn't matter. I can fix that by rolling it between my hands. Okay, I'm going to smooth this end. And then if there's anywhere else that looks like it needs smoothed, I don't see anything. And then again, I'm going to roll this in between my hands. All right, so I have a perfectly round ball. Look how shiny that is. This new Cernit metallic clay is amazing. Okay, so here's the magic. In order to make this into a heart, I first take, I first decide where my end is going to be, and I think I want this little swirly thing to be on the front of my heart. So I'm going to say that's the top front of my heart, and so I'm going to flatten it out just a bit. Then I'm going to pinch the bottom. To give it a pointy shape on one end. When I first learned to make hearts, I used a tutorial by TJ Floyd. So thank you, TJ. I have learned a lot from you. So now it's shaped like this, and then the next thing I need to do is I need to make the top part of the heart. And I'm going to do that first by using my thumb to make a little bit of a ditch in the top. But I want that to be a defined ditch, not just a couple of lumps like that. So what I use to do this is a bone folder. And my favorite bone folder is this Martha Stewart bone folder. It looks like this. And I use this for so many things. It works great for this. It also works great for burnishing things. And I'll show you how I use it to burnish here in a few minutes when I burnish this heart. Okay, so I then take my bone folder and go down through the middle of my heart and make a little bit of a dent. And then I take my fingers and smooth out my dent here. Smooth out the sides of it. Maybe push these little sides back up a little bit. And I just work with them and finesse them until I get it into the shape that I like. Okay. Then I take the bone, when I get that the way I want it, then I take the bone folder and one more time just go to the front and make a little bit of a extra impression right there, and to the back, and do the same thing, which just gives it a little nicer look. Okay, one more step and then I'm ready to put a word on this heart, but I'm going to make several hearts before I show you how I do the words. Okay, so my next step, and I would usually make a bunch of hearts and do this to all of them at the same time, probably, but my next step is to flatten it out some. It's pretty flat, but sometimes they end up being a little puffier than this, and I've found that I like them best if they all have like a little bit of a flat surface on the front and a flat surface on the back. And the way that I do that is to use a patty paper. I lay my heart down on the patty paper. I fold the patty paper up over the other side of it. And then I take my bone folder and I rub the top. You can see that I'm making a flat side on the heart. And then I turn it over and do the same thing on the back. Okay, and there you have a heart with a nice flat front surface and flat back surface. And that makes it so that once the heart is finished, if you want to sand it and buff it, you can get a nice shine on it because it has such a nice flat surface. Okay, so that's heart number one. Yes, I need to get used to doing it that way. Okay, that's heart number one. The next heart I'm going to make, I'm going to use these cane slices to put on the heart. And one thing I know about these cane slices, because I made them at some point, is that they have a lot of translucent clay in them. So if I put them on this ugly scrap heart ball, they are going to get all muddy looking. So the first thing I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to put a little thin sheet of white clay around my heart ball. And I can kind of cut off any excess clay that I have here because I don't want to make it a lot bigger by adding this. Now, as you can see, my sizing of my hearts is not very precise because this particular one's going to be a little bit bigger because before I put my slices on, I'm adding some more clay to the outside of it, and that's fine. So I'm just going to give that a little bit of a smoothing in. I don't care about the little seams and stuff that are showing, or that there's a few speckles in my white clay, because this is going to be underneath this this translucent-ish cane. Okay. So now I'm just going to take these cane slices that I've already sliced off of an old cane that I had. So I've applied these to the outside of this whole thing. This is kind of an old cane, so it's a little bit dry, so I might have to work with it. I might have to work with it a bit to get it to be completely smooth. So first I'm going to give it a good roll between my hands, kind of warming it up to get these slices to smooth in like I want them to. Okay, and then I'm going to take my knitting needle and I'm going to go over a lot of the edges to smooth them in. Doing it with some good pressure, because I don't care if it gets it out of round. I can just roll it back up between my hands. But ideally, I don't want any of these lines left in it. Or depending on what you're making, you might want lines to be in it. Okay, and I'm going to roll it up again so that it's a ball, so that it's a sphere. Okay, and then I'm just going to kind of decide what I like for the front of my heart. I think I like this, so I'm going to kind of squish that. I'm going to pinch the bottom. And I usually go along these edges a little bit because I don't want the sides to be completely flat. Okay, so now I have this shape. Okay. I always think when you look at the top of these, they look like a little butt. Okay. All right. So there's heart number 2. For our third heart, I think we will just use this polymer clay blend. It's a Skinner blend. I just used a little bit of alizarin crimson and a little bit of a red, and made a blend with them. And I'm going to just wrap that around. Here's my third heart. Looks very Valentine-y. Okay, and on the first heart, I already flattened that one. So now I'm just gonna do the same for the second and third hearts. Again, this is a step you don't absolutely have to do. It just depends on, I just decided that I like the look of the hearts better if they have a nice flat side, and also they shine up a little better when I buff them, okay? So again, putting it on a patty paper, using my bone folder to smooth down one side, then the other side. And sometimes I also, after I do that, I need to take my bone folder and kind of fix that line in the front and back. It kind of wants to smooth out a little bit, so. All right. And same for this guy. Okay, so you can see these hearts didn't turn out to be exactly the same size, and I'm okay with that. It just depends on how much clay you're adding to the outside of your heart ball. Okay, next step, we're going to add words to these hearts. Okay, so to make my words to put on my hearts, this is what I do. I bought these little stamps that I got at one of the craft stores. I think it was Michael's, but it could have been Hobby Lobby or Joann's, and they were $1 for a whole set of them. I have sets that are in different styles of print, but or different fonts, but this is the one I like and the one I use most, and I always just use lowercase. Okay, and at first I tried, because I was going to be using some of the same words over and over again, I tried making my own word stamps with these in malleable plastic that hardens and then that you can use as a stamp itself. But for me, that didn't work because it was, the definition wasn't good enough. And I like the definition I get from just using the actual stamps. So with a lot of practice, I found that I can make a somewhat straight words, make my words somewhat straight. It takes practice, and I really don't usually care if they're totally straight. So first I'm just going to make one that says love. So I'm doing L. O. B. E. Okay, I like that, okay. I'm doing this on antique gold Primo clay. I've tried different colors of clay for my words. I tried different colors of paint, but I settled on this as what I like best. Okay, the next word I'm gonna make are some letters that have meaning to me. I do a bright line eating, which is a food plan, very healthy eating. And one of the sayings that we have, you know, most food plans have their own little acronyms and words that mean something. And so I'm making a heart to put in my pocket that says JFTFP, which stands for just follow the frickin' plan. Okay, and then for my third heart, I am going to do CHD. And this heart is going to be for my niece or nephew whose baby, Link, was born a few months ago. He's 7 months old now with heart issues. The heart issues he has are referred to as CHD, and he is doing wonderfully. He's a beautiful 7-month-old baby boy, and he's had 2 surgeries and love, love, love that whole family. Okay, so I have my 3 words that I'm going to put on these 3 hearts, and then what I do is I just cut above and below each of the words. Again, they're not perfect. It's hard to get the letters completely straight, but they're fine with me. Okay, so here are my 3 words. And then depending, sometimes I might use a little ball tool to make a little bit of a design. So I just made a little dot at the beginning and end of that one. And then I'm going to cut it off on either side of my dot, maybe a little closer because this is going to go on one of the smaller hearts. Okay. All right, and this is going to go on this heart, and I have to decide which side to put it on. I think I will put it on the fancy side, but kind of move it down here so that you can still see the design nicely. And I'm just going to stick that on there. Okay. And actually, I did my little dots in this before I put it on, but usually I do it after, and that sort of helps push the clay on the little plaque down into the clay of the heart. Okay? All right, I'm gonna put love on this heart. I also have a little heart stamp that I really like among my stamps. I think I got it in a different set, and I'm gonna use that and put that little heart beside the word love here on that one. Sorry, these are upside down. It's hard to do this so that it'll be right for you. Okay, so that one is love with a little heart, and I'm gonna put that, if it'll fit, on this heart. Yeah. Okay. Okay, and then my 3rd heart is going to be just follow the frickin' plan, and I think I'll just do the letters with no other decoration on them, and I'm going to add that to this heart. Let me try it on the other side. I think I like this side better. Okay, and push that down a bit. All right, that's how I do my letters. Now, the letters will show up a lot better once I bake these hearts and paint, and then add a little bit of paint just to make the letters show up. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned it, the antique gold clay that I rolled out in order to make my letters on, I rolled out on a number 3 on my pasta machine, which is pretty much a medium. I'm gonna bake these and I'll be back. And just one more little step that I want to do to these hearts is I want to put a little bit of paint on them so that you can see the letters. I can't hold on to them. So that you can see the letters better. And the paint that I use is Folk Art brand Gunmetal Gray. Again, I tried different colors of clay, I tried different colors of paint, and antique gold paint with gunmetal gray works best for me. So I am just going to take a little bit of a stiff brush, and I am just going to dab the paint into the letters. And I'm gonna just go ahead and do all 3. 3 is about the maximum number I would do at one time because I don't want the paint to dry before I wipe it off. Okay, and I'm just putting a little bit of paint on each one and trying to keep it mostly up on the antique gold and not on the heart. Okay, and then I'm going to take spray alcohol. I use this a lot. And I'm going to spray some on my paper towel, and then I'm just going to wipe off the excess paint, all the paint that is not down in the letters. Oh, man. Okay, so you can see that it makes your letters stand out a lot more. Okay, so that's that one. My love heart. In there. So, well, I like working on a glass surface because I can just pour paint on the surface and whatever I'm working with, and then just wipe up the excess. Okay, so these are my hearts. When I am also going to buff these. I'm not going to sand them. I'm just going to buff them to just give them a little bit of shine. They could be sanded and buffed and really made shiny. I will just add a picture to the video once I have these buffed so that you can see my actual final product. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this, and be sure to like and share and subscribe and all that stuff. My social media information is on my last slide, so that you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Etsy, all the places.